Hey, 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 welcome to the Real Money Coach Show. Listen, you are listening to us live if you're joining us by Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn, and even Instagram tonight, or you may be watching or listening to this as a podcast. And either way, we are glad that you're here and that you're tuned in for our show tonight. And you know what we do, we love to just recognize people and where you're from. So if you are watching, you can put in the chat what city, what location you are watching from. We'll be sure to shout that out so that those who are just doing the audio podcast will also know all the different areas that you guys are coming from and watching the show. It is going to be an exciting show tonight. It is going to be a great show tonight. We have a great guest that's going to be on tonight with us, Christopher Boulder. You guys are going to love his story. I think you're going to leave this place inspired. You know, that's what we want to do. We want to inspire you. We want to inform you. We want you to be educated, and we want you to be ready to go out and conquer the world. This is 2024. It's a new year, and so we're excited. This is our second show. And I think that you're going to find it is an absolute hit. Now, with all that being said, let me do this. Let me bring on my co-host, Mrs. Michelle Mitchell from Mitchell Consulting. Michelle, how are you doing this evening?
I'm good. How are you, Tony?
Michelle, I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right.
Yeah.
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right.
Get it out
Listen,
your system.
I need to get it out of my system.
Yes.
Listen, I could have worn Amazing Blue tonight, but I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna
No
wait.
way.
So I'm
Okay.
gonna wait. But it was a great game last night. I thought it was gonna be closer than it
Yeah.
was. I didn't expect it to be quite the blowout. Janice Leak from Upper Marlboro, Maryland, is listening and watching in. I'm glad to have you, Rainmaker. But yeah, I just never thought that it would be that they would beat them, by 3 touchdowns. I mean, I thought it was going to be close,
Right. Yeah.
closer than that. But yeah, we were pretty excited around here, watching the game and seeing them win the national championship. So, but Michelle, I'll tell you this though, and I made a post about this on Facebook, and so if you're not a Facebook friend with me, just make sure you do that, and I'll put it in our. I'll probably repost it in the Real Money Coach Facebook community as well. There is a Real Money Coach Facebook community. If you're not a member of that, make sure you join. And I put in there though, as happy as I was about them winning. Hello, Kimberly from Charlotte, North Carolina, is that this scene when Penix, the quarterback, I don't know if you watched the game at all.
A little bit
A little bit. At
before I
the
go.
end of the game, everything was over, right? Confetti
Hmm.
flying everywhere. And they really had beat him up pretty bad. They
Hmm.
really had beat him up. Hello, Alice Martin. Thank you for being here. They really had beat him up pretty bad. I
Hmm.
mean, he was limping. He was grabbing
Oh
his
yeah, the other guy. Yeah.
yeah, for the
Yeah.
other
Yeah. Yeah.
team.
Yeah.
And then he's walking through the tunnel
Hmm.
to go to the locker room. No fanfare. No trainer, no
Wow.
medical staff, no coach, no teammate. He
Wow.
was just walking by himself. And then, one of the Michigan players ran into the tunnel, kind of gave him a little respect. But I was like, isn't that life sometimes?
Yeah.
It's like when you're on top. I mean, and he was what? He was runner up for the Heisman.
Right.
All this, and sometimes when you're on top,
Hmm.
the whole world is around you.
Yes.
Everybody wants to talk to you. Microphones in your face,
Yep.
cameras in your face, selfies. And here this guy was, it really laid himself out, right? I mean,
Hmm.
physically
Yeah.
and emotionally, he was
Hmm.
beat up pretty bad.
Right.
But there was no one around him.
No one around him.
No one
That's
around him.
sad.
And I was thinking about, life is kind of like that sometimes though.
It is. Hmm.
When you're going through, there's no one around. It's just
Right.
you.
It's
It's just You and God, right?
Yes,
But
yes.
Michelle, I do have to say this. That is not my experience in life. It is not
True.
my experience in life.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Because
Either.
in my darkest days, there's always been somebody there, right? When
Always.
I was
Yeah.
younger, it was my uncle. I mean, my
Mm-hmm.
darkest days, he was there.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we married Lisa, and then the Mitchells.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Through our darkest days, losing parents and other
Yeah.
things that we go through, Michelle and Antonio Mitchell have always been there for the Jacksons.
That's true.
And so, that just made me appreciate family and friends
Mm-hmm.
even that much more
Yeah.
because of the fact that when I saw that, I thought, wow, that's pretty sad.
Yeah.
And
That
especially
was
when
pretty
you think
sad.
about that he sacrificed his life, it really, I would say his life, but physically,
He did.
for this game and for his
Yeah.
team. And the
Yeah.
fact that there was no one around him.
And the thing is, he was instrumental in winning just as many games, except for the very last one.
The only one he lost was the last one.
Yeah.
Right. And so you can do all these things
Yep, you can.
and then that last one. And I thought about this too from a standpoint, because I'm always thinking about my business. It's just like, and I saw a post, I think Lisa might have showed me, is that, if you spend your whole life, you winning, right? You look
Mhm.
like you're winning. I mean,
Yeah.
you live in the right house, buy the right
Yep.
car, you do all this, and then you get to that final stage, and now when you leave, the good Lord calls you home, and you leave absolutely nothing behind.
Right. Yeah.
No legacy, no
Mhm.
generational wealth, not even a life insurance policy to bury you.
Right.
Tragic,
Yeah,
tragic.
it
But
is.
Michelle, before we go to our break, I do want to do this. I want you to talk a little bit about the financial roundtable that you got coming up tomorrow.
Yeah. So I invite everyone to the Financial Empowerment Roundtable tomorrow that my team and I will be hosting. This month's topic is our year-end tax deadlines that are
Okay.
coming up in January. So we just want to talk through that with people, because people are, especially business owners who don't know, they get kind of anxious about, what's due, when it's due. Like, I don't know how to do that kind of thing. So
Right.
we're gonna talk through that tomorrow. So you're welcome tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern, and it's via Zoom. And everyone who wants to come is welcome.
Awesome. And we'll make sure that we get that in a private Facebook group. And I think we may have some information that we will, even before we are done here. I'm going to see if I can create this. I'm testing my skills here, and we're gonna put it in the chat so that it can be. Oops, I,
Yes.
I did too much. I did too much. See, that's why I need to leave that to the technical people.
Oh,
I did too much.
yeah,
Opens
because
in the new chat, right?
yeah, that part won't, it'll create an
Right,
error.
right.
Yeah.
So, but there it is. If anyone wants to do it, just and I believe if you probably go to learn.mitchellconsultingservice.com, there it is on the
Yeah.
screen.
Take out the
So
opens in a new tab out.
yeah, opens in the new tab. I just copied the whole thing. So,
Yeah.
but we appreciate that. But let's do this. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back with our guest, Mr. Christopher Balder. And you are all watching and listening to the Real Money Coach Show.
Do you have passion for your business but feel like your finances are falling short? Running a business takes more than a great idea. It takes a solid financial plan. Mitchell Consulting can help you turn your passion into profit with their financial advisory services. Get the financial guidance your business needs. Contact Mitchell Consulting to learn more about their passion to profit capabilities.
All right. So listen, I'm excited to introduce our special guest for this evening. As I mentioned, his name is Christopher Boulder. And let me just tell you a little bit about Christopher. Christopher has quite a story to tell, and I'm not going to actually tell it. I'm going to let him tell it because I do think that it will be inspiring for many of us who are listening in or watching tonight. And I'm trying. Listen, I'm just having a little problem over here, but let me do this. Let me just bring Christopher on out. I was looking for his bio, but my technology is all messed up. So let's bring Christopher on. Christopher, how you doing?
Oh man, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Welcome to the show, bro.
It's amazing.
It was a pleasure meeting you a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
We were introduced virtually at first, and you just happened to be in the Charlotte area because of being almost a homeboy, right? Just up the road in Kannapolis. And
Yeah.
so we got a chance to sit down and have a cup of coffee. And I'm like, man, we got to get you on the show. So welcome.
Thank you. Nice to meet you, Michelle.
Nice to meet you too, Christopher.
So, man, why don't you tell the audience who's watching and listening a little bit about your background and who you are?
Oh, it's so much. I keep it simple, and I'll let you guys dig in on the rest. So I'm Christopher Boulder, born and raised from Kannapolis, North Carolina. It's a small town, and if you're driving through in your sleep, you'll miss it. It's literally one street light. It's right north of Charlotte, North Carolina, where Tony is. Those who live in that area, you're familiar with it. Born and raised there, raised by my grandparents. My mother birthed me at a young age, which we'll talk about. We'll tackle on later. So I was raised by my grandparents. They were Pentecostal preachers. They kept us in church, Tony. They kept us in the Michelle all night. And I got a little older, and when I got ready to finish high school, I kind of ran up on my own before I got into a little bit of trouble. Going to prison. After that, I ended up doing church planting. Planted 2 churches in Charlotte, very great churches to work with some great ministries, did some good plants. And I also do a lot of within men's ministry. I seek after the souls of men. I seek out the soul care. That's what I call it. That's what we call it, rather. And I'm an author, of course, and public speaker, motivational speaker, whatever you want to call it. And I kind of do a bit of that. So that's pretty much the version of me.
Well, you brushed over it, man. You brushed over it. So I thank you for being here. And I know the title of the book is Broken.
Yes.
And so tell us a little bit about what the book is about.
Oh, so Broken is about, man, it's a beautiful story if you ever get a chance to read it. But it's the story of a young man that's searching for strength through the strings of confinement and through tragedy on a dark plane. It's a story of a young man that's born into adversity through the midst of rough upbringing to bad choices in life to all the way through imprisonment. And it's a redemption story. It really talks about one who's hopeless, finding hope. And in the midst of finding hope, I found purpose and how I deal with the hand that's dealt. You know, everybody's got to deal with the hand that's dealt in life. And I take my hand and I play it well. So that's pretty much what Broken is about. My upbringing, how I basically flew through the ways of life from high school to hanging in the rough areas and gang infested neighborhoods to selling drugs to hanging with the wrong crowds to trying to find me, trying to find identity, knowing what's right versus trying to find me, trying to find identity and going to prison, finding who I really am while I'm in prison, learning different experiences. First time ever in trouble, first time ever incarcerated. So those of you that may have nieces and nephews and young grandsons that may be on that rough path in life and they're a knucklehead. Let's call it what it is. And
so you telling us you was a knucklehead?
I had my moments. God knows I did. And you just can't get through to them. I talk about that in the book, man, how I got through it and how God spoke to me and how God tackled me, how I wrestled with him in thoughts and in my heart and in my soul, and how I was just in a dark space seeking light to get out, man, and what I did with my life once I, came back to society.
So, man, so let's talk about this. I mean, because to me, I'm hearing your background, and I was introduced to you by a gentleman, Euro Day, because you guys work for a seminary, right? And so you're saying you went from the sounds like the streets to now you are a program director or something of that nature with a seminary, right? um we don't hear about those stories, right?
No.
We always hear about the stories where someone goes through, making bad choices, and we've all made bad choices, right? So but so you end up incarcerated, but you come out, right? And I think about um Michelle, her husband Antonio really has a passion for helping people get out of incarceration and get back into the community. I mean, that's one of his passions that I have a great deal of respect that he's passionate about. So, man, what was different? What was it that made you just finally say or say, you know what, I'm gonna just turn this whole thing around, and then now I'm gonna help others that maybe try to prevent them from going down that track, or even if they're in it to get and have a similar story to yours. You hit your mute.
That's a deep question and it's wide. I'm gonna do my best to narrow that down.
Okay.
Because when you ask someone that, like, what was the pivotal moment for them to, turn, and basically that's what it is. It's like a pivot, it's just a turning away. And that's what it was for me. I think it was the moment when I realized how broken I was while I was incarcerated. And I think I had been incarcerated maybe at the time about 2.5 years. I still had another stretch of a four years to go. The calendar, I'm not even marking the days on the calendar yet. It's not even my time. I got a minute, and I'm sitting there and I'm doing this time. And in prison, man, many men, I say, will go to church, will go to the chapel, they'll read their Bible, they'll get all their little notes and their pen and their paper out, and they'll do all the religious activities that they can do, hoping and thinking that this has some weight or value for them coming home from prison. And that's absolutely not true. That is not authentic, and that is not how God works. That has nothing to do. We're in there because we made a mistake and we have to do our time. If a miracle happens in the gist of that, then that's perfectly fine. But in the point of that, no, you reading your Bible is not going to shorten your sentence. I did that. I was that guy. I read my Bible hoping it was going to shorten my sentence, Tony, and then I realized I was just picking up a jailhouse religion, and I got that, and I understood that moment I knew I wasn't broken. I was still living behind a mask. But the moment I became broken, Tony, was the moment I realized that I had to deny myself, man. Stop faking it, stop fronting, and confess who I truly was. Broken, the book that I write about broken, when it comes to those moments for me in life, the moment pivotally hit for me is when I continued to see men that I hung out with, guys that, just shooting the talk with, we walked the yard with, I'm saying goodbyes, I'm giving these dudes my final goodbyes, we dapping it up on the yard. I'm seeing these brothers go home, and 90 days to 6 months later, Tony, I'm seeing these brothers coming right back into prison. Right? Like, I want my goodbye back. Like, we didn't like what's going on? Like, I see, and it was a revolving door. I oftentimes hear about these brothers saying, man, it's hard out there. It's this. I couldn't get on my feet. I couldn't do this. I kept hearing all these excuses. And I always told myself, Tony, man, I don't want that to be me. I don't want that to be my story. And I want that to be my excuse. I have too much in me. I felt like I had too much in me. And I did not want that to be a part of my story. I heard you say earlier to Michelle, man, something about darkest days while I was backstage, and that you didn't have those type of moments in darkest days, but I did. I know what it feels like to live alone. I know what it feels like to sleep in darkness. I know what it feels like to be abandoned and rejected. I know what it feels like to not have community, and a lot of those guys in there do as well. And that's when it really came pivotal for me, man, to seek community, to seek brotherhood, to seek true authenticity, to be true with myself in the midst of that. And that was the pivotal point for me while I was in prison. I'll never forget. It was June of 2008. I went to the chapel. I accepted Christ as Lord and Savior. I did all the talk. I did all the steps. I did the Romans road thing, whatever we do. And I did all of that, but it still didn't stop me from cussing somebody out. It still didn't stop me from lying. It still didn't stop me from shooting the brick and just doing whatever I was doing. I really had to get to a breaking point within myself, Tony, to where I knew, man, in order for me to stay out this penitentiary, I was going to have to cling on to something real and authentic and something that was going to. And so that was the pivotal point for me in 2008. That I knew then from that point forward, man, when I leave this place, I was never coming back. And
never coming back.
Yeah.
I'm not going to allow this for my future, because men that I know that come from this place, it's the same excuse. I got a record. I can't do this. I can't go there. I got a record. And man, I just got to a point. I was not going to allow that my past, man, to determine my future.
Wow. I mean, that's a great story.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's not a story, man. I know we call it a story, but that's your truth, right? And that's pretty powerful. So now tell us a little bit about the whole church planning thing. How did that come about?
So yeah, that was church planning. It accidentally, I guess, failed. I never really wanted to church plant or pastor until I realized I was doing it. I came home wanting community. I came home wanting to like really ground the troops up, round people up like myself, man, that needed support, needed community, needed discipleship, needed just some inspiration, needed direction, needed some guidance, needed somebody to hang out with. That's what I came home to do. And before I knew it, man, we had 50 people in the living room and we started singing songs of Zion. We give a testimony. And before I knew it, and it just trickled. And they were like, all right, well, I'm gonna come back next week if that's cool. And it just, we breaking bread, we making spaghetti, we heating up bread. Before I knew it, I'm like, well, let's do this again next week. And then I was like, well, let's find us a spot to get out to the living room. And it just it happened. And that was organically, man. It happened so organically. That's my first church plant. It happened in 2013, November 2013. We went with that plant. We planted that church. It was a small of us. And I mean, my grandmother was there. That was she was more my pastor. She was a member, but she was more my pastor. She was my leader. She's my confidant, man. She gave me guidance. She gave me mentorship. And we just started that church plant and we grew. We didn't grow much. We were small. We might have grew to about, a little 40 here and there. Numbers always trickle back down. We was in Concord, North Carolina, over there in Kerr Street.
Okay.
And we was doing more. I'm an outreach guy. I'm an evangelist, outreach. I love the streets, man. And that's what we did. We always did things in the community. We always had youth in the community, opened up the gym, had these young people here, fed them pizza, let them play ball, send them home to their families. And that's what we did. We did that for about 4 years. And then the opportunity for me opened up for a bigger church in Atlanta, and they had me plant another church for them in Charlotte. And so it kind of rolled over from there and just got bigger.
Okay.
Wow.
Awesome. So, and you mentioned just your passion for men.
Yeah.
And because I mean, honestly, man, a lot of, Michelle, y'all are winning, right? I mean, and so many of the guests that come on are ladies who, that are doing phenomenal things. We as men we're a little bit more, to ourselves. It seems like to me,
That
it
is
seems
true.
like that we don't communicate as well. We don't do that like the ladies do. So tell me a little bit about the men's stuff that you're doing, the retreat. Tell us a little bit about what's going on there.
So, like I shared before, being in prison, I don't know any other man besides, unless they've been where I've been in the shoes I've been in, or to some atmosphere, to some or capacity, however they've been. But I don't really know any other men that have been in the shoes that I've been in that have dealt one-on-one with men, seen men at their lowest. I think I've seen men that I've seen in my life at their lowest in prison. And one thing that I've learned over the years that I still learn to today that's probably never will change about a man is that men suffer in silence And then women oftentimes always ask us why we ain't saying nothing, why we this, and why we're, non-communicative, and why we're not communicating, and why we here, and why we're running, and why we're here, But men are speaking, they're just silent. And nobody understands us in the capacity of the way we are trying to communicate or articulate what we're suffering from. And I've learned that from observing men over the years. And I don't know, man. I just prayed, Tony, that I could come up with some idea, something holistic, man, something real that brothers cling on to besides shooting a basketball or throwing a football, something that men could really cling on to, whether it's smoking a cigar, man, or just sitting back on the patio watching the fire pit, and to have real, authentic conversation. I'll tell you nothing more beautiful to me and more poetic than a man crying and really getting free of the anchors that's on his chest that he's been walking around with for months, and then to see him go in front of his family with his chest up like he has it all together, but sit with me on the fire pit crying. And, it's nothing poetic to me to see that brother getting some type of form of release and freedom. So I want to say it was right during the pandemic. It's a big blowout of our last church plant. We ended up having to close. And I think life for everybody shifted in a different direction. I think that's safe to say. And I just found myself back in the mental space, Tony, and Michelle, that I was when I went to prison. I found myself back rejected, alone, abandoned, trodden down, friends, but still lonely, Yeah.
Right.
You could be in a room full of people and be all by yourself.
Yeah.
I done been in lounges and clubs, Tony, and sat there like this. And look, everybody's around. I feel like I'm the only one in the room. And I know that feeling. I know how that is. I know that feeling, and that feeling can take you to a dark place. That feeling can have you feel into a place to where like nobody understands you but you. And I just knew then that I said, man, I got to break this before it breaks me. And I really needed to get to a place to where I said, if I'm feeling this, I know brothers are. I know there's some other men. There's some fathers. There's some grandfathers. There's some nephews that are some cousins that are battling with this. And so I didn't reach out to anybody for a long time. Finally, I think I got to the end of my rope before it turned to alcoholism. I turned to a buddy and told him, I said, man, I'm in a dark place. I don't know what to do. And I sit at a coffee shop and I sit by the window every day because I don't know what to do. And I said, man, I really need some help. And he invited me to this place, Tony, in Montana. And what black man,
Montana, right.
Any business.
I can't even name a city in Montana.
Every year I go out there twice a year, Montana and Wyoming. And I go out there every time I get out there, people be looking at me and be like, I know you ain't from here. But even though he invited me out here to this place, man, and I kid you guys not, I get out there, man, and it is so much healing, so much freedom. The atmosphere, just for me to be able to be free, what I'm dealing with, no judgment, and to just get that release. And I felt like this is one of the most safest places for men to come. So I went a couple of years, to get my healing and, things that I needed. And I began to invite other brothers. And then I also wanted to do that for men coming home from prison, to automatically come home to community. I had to fight for mine. I had to meet people, had to get connected with people, get plugged in. But it's nothing better for someone who's waiting for you at the gate to get you connected, to plug in for community because they love you and they want to see you grow and they want to see you get better. And so that's how I ended up getting plugged in with Montana and Wyoming. So we take guys out there from 15 to 25 guys. We take them out there. They be mostly African Americans. We have a group that we take of just African Americans. And we take these guys out there, man, and we take them boys horseback riding, to skeet shooting, to trout fishing, to you name it, so they can see the nothing but God's creation of the land. So it's a beautiful thing. But it's one thing it is, though. It's a place of healing. It's a place of soul care. It's a place of community. And it's the most authentic brotherhood that you could ever find.
Wow. So here's the thing. And it's so amazing because Michelle, he found his purpose, right?
Yeah, he did.
His purpose.
Yeah.
And sometimes, we find our purpose in pain, right? That pain forces us to find that purpose. But I just wonder, as we're, about to, end the show, as we're about to come to a close here, what is the one word that you would say? Let's say that there's somebody that's listening to this show live tonight, or they're listening to the podcast, and they're at a dark place, right? And the man or what have you. What is the one word? What would you say tonight to encourage them not to give up?
The one word that would encourage them not to give up.
And it don't have to be one word, one statement. Let me know. What would you say to them that would encourage them not to give up?
I want to encourage somebody. You're right. That's it. So if I can encourage one person that's listening, or those of you that are listening that can encourage someone else to pass this message along to them, to encourage them not to give up. That where they are right now isn't the end, nor the beginning of where they will be. That where they are right now is painful, but it's purposeful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That where you are right now, despite whatever you're going through, your challenges that you're facing, no matter how bleak it is, that what you're facing right now, that not only is it painful, but it's purposeful. Tony, the word for them is purposeful. I believe that life and God is intentional in all that he does, and I don't think he makes no mistake. And he's very intentional with you, Michelle, and myself, and those that are watching on this show, that it was intentional and purposeful that they were here at viewing this show today, for you to be able to hear what's happening. It's testimony, a redemption story, and that we're all a redemption story. And I think even though you may not have a redemption story, magic is mine.
Mm-hmm.
We all have our own redemption story.
Part of someone else's redemption story. So don't give up on them. Don't give up on her. Don't feel like hope or is hopeless or purpose is lost, because you are a part of their story as much as they are a part of your story. And that as much as painful as it is, it's purposeful. Thanks,
Wow.
Tony.
That's deep. That's deep. Well, Christopher, I thank you so much, man, for taking some time out and coming on the show and sharing. And I know for those of you who are watching, we have your information scrolling, but if you would mind, just tell people how they can connect with you, social media, if they want to get the book, how would they do that?
Matter of fact, I got a copy of it right here.
Well, hold that up. There we go.
Oh.
Broken. It's a great book. I believe it will change your life. It's a short read. I thought about you brothers that don't really want. You got that time. You ain't got that time. But you can read this in one sitting. I got many people who've read it in one sitting, some a day or so. It's a beautiful book, and I promise you, it's a page turner. And I'm not saying it because I wrote it. I'm saying it because I know. But you can go on ChristopherBolder.com /bookstore. You can purchase the book. If for some reason you can't get through there, you can always go to Amazon. I would type in Christopher Bolder Broken on Amazon, because there's many titles of Broken. You have to stroll all day. It's Christopher Bolder on IG, and Christopher Bolder, of course, on Facebook. If you want to connect with me, please reach out anytime. I love to talk, love to meet you, love to connect, and we can grow from there.
Awesome. And we got a couple comments that came in. Minister Deborah Blakeney said, "I'm listening from Charlotte." And Alice Martin said, "This has been a great eye opener for me. Thank you, Christopher." And you know, where I leave tonight encouraged from this standpoint, that you know that your story is a great story, but what God will do for one, He'll do for another.
Hey.
And so with that, I'm just very very proud of you, man. Just thank you for being as transparent as you are, because everybody's not that transparent.
Yeah.
I mean, you came and you shared your story, right? And you wrote a book sharing your story. So we appreciate that. So man, hang out in the green room for a few minutes with us. And Michelle, any last words you got? Anything you want to say as we close out this episode?
Just to encourage people, like, tomorrow's a brighter day. It's a brighter day.
day.
you got to fight through today to get to the brighter day. So,
Right.
yeah.
So if you don't give up,
If you don't give up.
Mhm. Right? I was thinking about, I can't remember who sings the song, but the lyric was something like, trouble, and I'm messing it up, but it's something like trouble may come, but only for one night though.
Right.
Only for one night.
Mhm.
And trouble may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. And
Right.
with that, everyone, have a wonderful, wonderful evening. We will see you. Deborah Bladen says, listen, take one day at a time.
Yes.
One day at a time. And, you know, and I think whether you're talking about in your personal life, you're talking about your business, and we believe in planning, right? We believe in planning. We believe in having a plan. But sometimes we just got to wake up in the morning and say it's a new day. And I got it. And as long as I wake up every morning, I got a chance to get it right. So with that, everyone have a wonderful night. Thank you for tuning in to the Real Money Coach Show. And we'll see you next week. Same time, same place. God bless you.
Have a good night.